Krishnan Guru Murthy, hello.
Hi there.
I feel a little bit weird this morning. I've woken up and everyone's talking about trees. What's going on?
Well, it's great. I mean, if you think about the first TV debate, the climate got very, very little time. We're going to devote our whole hour to talking about the climate emergency. First time it's ever happened in a general election. And, all the opinion polls show that this is a really, really important electoral topic for huge numbers of people.
You've invited all of the party leaders to attend. Why is it so important that Boris Johnson does as well?
Well, because he's in government. And, if you look at today's polls, he's on track to be the next Prime Minister for another 5 years. So if Britain's got any hope of meeting its targets and achieving net zero by 2050, which is what they are promising, it's the decisions that he takes that are going to be crucial. This is not something you can leave, for another 10 or 20 years to see how technology adapts. You've got to start taking decisions from the beginning of next year. And so that's why it's really important that he's here.
Both he and Nigel Farage yet to confirm that they're going to attend. Will you empty chair them this evening?
There are places in our studio for both Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson, and they will remain there right up until the moment we go on air. If Boris Johnson wants to turn up at 7 o'clock, or frankly even at 7:10, he can walk onto the set. It wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
Would he be able to walk onto the set if there's something in his place? I'm hearing rumours that there's going to be an ice sculpture behind his podium.
Look, I mean, people are going to have to tune in to see, precisely what happens tonight. I mean, all I would say is the ice caps are melting.
Jeremy Corbyn did a very tough interview with Andrew Neil this week. It looks like Boris Johnson might not do that either. Is that bad for our democracy?
Well, I mean, I've been warning about this for a long time now and saying there is a real crisis going on of accountability in that politicians of all shapes and flavours are often doing as much as they can to avoid big TV interviews and avoid scrutiny. I mean, we've been struggling for months to get politicians from both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party to come on regularly to face questioning, and it's accentuated even more during an election campaign. Theresa May very much did the same thing in 2017, and this time it's arguably worse. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a real problem. I mean, of course, the media sounds jumped up and puffed up and pompous when it says, but it's outrageous that they won't come on our programme. And, oh fine, if you don't want to come on my programme, at least do Andrew Neil, but do one of us. And if you don't, then, you look scared, but you're also failing to answer the really tough questions. And that's really important.
There's a broader trend happening here, isn't there? Because years gone by, I don't remember, but I know the likes of Margaret Thatcher, Prime Ministers in the past, would perhaps do even hour-long interviews on TV, and now they're not even turning up.
No, I mean, it's a real problem, and people imagine that this is sort of this is nonsense, that, that they don't remember politicians being sort of duffed up on TV. But, Margaret Thatcher used to appear on television a lot. She would do hour-long interviews with the likes of Brian Walden, Robin Day, David Dimbleby, and face real grillings, sustained questioning. These days, try and get a politician to agree to a 20-minute interview. It's really hard. They want to do 8 minutes, 6 minutes, because they know that they've got a line and it sustains 2 or 3 challenges. But if you've got a long argument that you want to develop, it's quite hard if your argument is a bit thin. So they don't want to do long interviews. And Andrew Neil is the only one, actually, in this election campaign who's actually getting them to do half an hour. Andrew Marr gets reasonable amounts of time, 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes. But I think it's appalling that nobody's doing an hour-long interview. This debate tonight is an hour. It's not long enough, in my view. Debates and, proper sustained questioning take a long time.
Do you think Andrew Neil is a good interviewer?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's well-researched and he's rigorous. And, he's very much his own style of questioning. But, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him.
This isn't the first time in the election campaign that there's been a fraying of tensions, if you like, between the media and a political party. Talk about the mirror in the campaign bus. Channel 4 has had some problems with Michael Gove recently. Are we witnessing, do you think, a similar trend to what we've seen in the US, where the relationship between the media, the electorate and politicians is almost descending into a culture war?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think our politicians are learning from what's going on in America, and they are challenging the legitimacy of the question. They are challenging the legitimacy of the media organisation. You know, what we saw with that interview between Kieran and Michael Gove the other day was him basically refusing to engage with the question and instead attacking Channel 4 News and turning us into the enemy. And what that does is it motivates and gets all their social media warriors going to say, oh, well, you know, to repeat the message and to turn us into the enemy. We are trying to serve everybody. You know, we are not on anyone's side. We are a regulated, impartial broadcaster. If anyone's got a problem with what we do on air, they can take us to Ofcom. We have never been ruled against on political impartiality. So we are sincerely trying to serve all our audiences. And what some politicians and sort of the back scenes operators are trying to do at the moment is really sinister and is a threat to democracy.
Because Corbyn's press conference yesterday sat down with Barry Gardiner and someone dared to ask about the problem of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. And they attacked the reporter. They sort of said, why don't you want to talk to us about the thing we're here putting a press release out about? I mean,
that is quite a common and sort of old style problem, I think, where politicians say, well, I want to talk about this, and a journalist asks them about that, and they get annoyed about it. And I just think it's a mistake to think that if you hold a press conference, you have a right to determine what the questions are going to be about. You know, the deal in all of these sorts of events is we cover your press conference, we cover you talking about the NHS and your document, and all of that goes out on air. But when it comes to question time, we can ask whatever we want. And if you don't like the question, well, fine, you don't have to answer it. People will draw their own conclusions from you not answering the question. But you can't turn on the reporter and say, no, this press conference is only about that topic. That's just not going to work. I think the most impactful events of this general election so far have been interviews. I'm thinking of Prince Andrew and then the Andrew Neil interviews, which we've already covered. Would you agree that these media events are sort of, at the moment at least, the defining moments of the campaign? Well, I think we've got to be very careful about that. No, I'm not sure they are. You know, I think actually the only big media events we've had have been the ITV debate, the question time specials, and the Andrew Neil interviews, and they cause a flurry and they cause a fuss on social media and the media for a couple of days afterwards. I'm not really sure they're changing very much. You know, I think largely people's minds are made up. There is a very small number of people who are really genuinely floating voters who are there to be influenced in this election. And I'm not sure that TV interviews are really the game changer. I think it's bigger than that. And I think, you know, the whole media environment is what people are looking at, and that means newspapers, TV, radio, social media, what people are saying on the doorstep, how people feel about what's going on, and the manifestos. So I think, no, I mean, I'm a bit sceptical myself about how much TV changes things. I think the Prince Andrew interview is a separate matter because it's Prince Andrew and it's the royal family and different rules apply. Yeah. But, you know, has the Andrew Neil interview with Jeremy Corbyn really changed the game? I'm not sure it has. You know, it was a very good interview. It was fascinating to watch. Has it changed the election outcome? I doubt it. Do you think this is the Brexit election or the climate election? It depends which political party you are and what kind of voter you are. I mean, for some people, clearly Brexit is the most important issue, but it's not the most important issue for everybody. And what we do know is that climate change has suddenly exploded as an issue in a lot of people's minds. And people may feel very strongly about Brexit, but they may also feel very strongly about the climate. And that's why it's quite shocking that it's had so little attention in this election campaign, and that's partly why we're doing this programme tonight. Final chance then to make your offer to Boris Johnson. If you could say anything to him now, what would you say to him? The camera's there. You have got policies on the climate. You know your stuff. You've got people around you who care about this stuff. Your own partner works in this area. You will get a fair hearing if you come on air tonight, and you will get the same time and the same scrutiny as everybody else. I think you should take your place and join us. Krishnan Guru Murthy, thank you. Thanks a lot.